Rob Doster is a UConn fan, colleague of ours. Would you call Rob Doster a personal friend to you, Cart?
Of course. Honestly, one of my closer and also at the same time farthest away friends.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like you and him go through phases where like I'm afraid of how close you are, and then there's also phases where you're just like, screw you, Doster.
Yeah, it works though. It's worked really good up until this point. I make it very clear the distance I like to keep him away from me at all times, and it just works.
So Rob, founder of Field of 68, make sure you go subscribe to Field of 68 and all those guys. Former place that I worked, and I just love them. I think they're doing great college basketball work. Anyways, Rob, UConn fan, we know this. If he's going to throw around comparisons to his UConn program or his UConn teams to a different team or player or coach outside of the UConn world, usually that's Rob Doster's highest form of praise. You could say it's Rob Doster's love language. Like some people like words of affirmation. I think Rob, he operates in words of Husky affirmation. So, anyways, it's Purdue who he's going after here. And by going after, I mean he's comparing Purdue to the greatest UConn team that I've seen in 20 years. I'm going to play a clip from this. This is from the latest episode of the DTF podcast. Rob Doster, Terrence Oglesby, and John Fanta back together for a new episode. So go check that out. This is Rob comparing this year's Purdue team to a certain UConn team.
I believe that they're the team that has the best chance to be what UConn was in 2024, right? Because I have no doubt that this is going to be, if they're not the best offense in college basketball, they're going to be a top three offense in college basketball. Their issue last year wasn't on the offensive end of the floor. They ranked 332nd in defensive two-point field goal percentage, 358 in block rate, and they were outside the top 120 in both offensive rebounding rate and defensive rebounding rate. That's a long-winded way of saying they didn't have the paint presence to replace Zach Edey, and they had absolutely no rim protection. Right. Well, this year they got Daniel Jacobson coming in. Daniel Jacobson is going to be healthy, and I think that significantly changes how well they rebound. Oscar Klopp averaged 17 and 13 last year. He rebounds a game. Okay, he is a 6'11" Australian outback man. I'm pretty.
I'm gonna stop there. I wanted to get through the 6'11" Australian outback man, but go listen to the full episode. It's awesome. I listen to the DTF pod all the time, so shout out to those guys. But anyways, okay. Purdue has the best chance of being what 2024 UConn was. And then he goes into the reasons why the additions that Purdue made put them on the track to potentially replicating what Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Stephon Castle, Alex Caravan, and Donovan Clingan ultimately became a dominant team that, respectfully, I think punked Purdue in the national championship game. TKR, Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer all started in that game. So pretty high praise from UConn fan Rob Doster. Are you okay with comparing this year's Purdue team to 2024 UConn?
So a couple things. One, I truly do think that this does mean even more coming from Douster. One, because obviously he knows his shit, and two, he wouldn't just compare that team to UConn if he didn't truly believe it, and he watches more UConn than anyone I know, kind of in this space. So I think it's a good call by him. It's also funny that he's referring to Oscar Clough as a 6'11" Outback man, while he is a 6'4" Outback Steakhouse man. I'd like to make that very much known. The boy shaped like a blooming onion. Um, I think that I agree with it. I agree with every point that he made about the improvement in the rim protection and the rebounding and the having the top offense. I agree with everything that is said. Maybe where I need help from you though is how does that make them comparable to the 2024 UConn team?
That's where I'm a little confused too. Um, couple things for me. Number one, the 2024 UConn team was like dominant, right? Like, I guess just, I don't know, psychologically, UConn went 37 and 3, was coming off of a national title of their own the year before and felt like even though they were already the champs, they had improved,
Hmm.
right? Like, I guess that's something I can resonate a little bit with from the Purdue standpoint. Like, you already felt like Purdue was good, and you still feel like you went out and upgraded certain spots. Like, maybe that's the angle here, right? You had Adama Sanogo at UConn, and you turned to Donovan Clingan the next year and felt like you got better. You had Andre Jackson at the three, and you turned to Stephon Castle a year later, and you felt like you got better. Now, the part that loses me is like Purdue's not on top of the world. Purdue is not the biggest, baddest team on the block right now. And psychologically, I would think this core for Purdue that's together right now is coming into this season maybe feeling like they have more to prove than that UConn team was. And that UConn team was just dominant from start to finish because that's how good they were. Purdue still needs to be the hunter a little bit, not the hunted here. So, and then you go out to the encore stuff basketball wise. I don't think I see the comp. Number one, that UConn team had 2 lottery picks. Castle was in contention to be the number one pick in that draft, and Clingan was sensational. I think Oscar Clough's great. I think Daniel Jacobson's gonna be great. I think Omer Meyer's great. They don't have a lottery pick on this team. Even the All-American candidates they have, Braden Smith and TKR, are probably not going to be first-round picks. So there's a talent discrepancy here between what 2024 UConn was, and I just think stylistically it's very different. But outside of like that's the best team in the country and the team to beat, I can follow what he's saying, but I don't see many more similarities other than that.
Yeah, I think the possible impending domination that could happen that is in the cards because there's a world where now that UConn team that I think it'll take some time to really get there, but in 15 years we will really still have to talk about how dominant that year and that run actually was.
Yeah.
It was I mean, obviously you and I were there in person to watch a good amount of it with the Final Four and things like that, but just that run was absolutely ridiculous what that team was doing. It was peak basketball, one of the better basketball runs and teams that I've seen in my lifetime, and I don't know if it gets that love that it's gonna deserve, that maybe it'll get kind of further down the line, but it was truly a dominant thing. And I think Purdue is very, very good, and I think Purdue could win a national championship this year. They are obviously that's I'm not coming out with any crazy take here, but I don't know if it'll look like what that 2024 UConn team did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but again, I'm okay with like making comps to previous champion teams because I see that. Rob,
Also you realize Rob's pulling a U right here, right?
oh, is this a psychological warfare
This
move?
is psychological warfare because what team did that 2024 team took down the greatest Purdue player and team thus far that we have seen.
This is just Rob wanting to remind people that
Yeah.
2024 UConn
All
destroyed
Purdue fans
Purdue.
are now looking up 2024 UConn film and catching strays watching the fact that they had to lose that game.
Well, there's the other thing here. Rob could also be tactical a little bit, which would be a me move. UConn is very good this year.
Oh yeah.
UConn has every right to believe they could be the number one team in the country this year. I think we just did our preseason, postseason, who's going to be number one at the end of the year exercise. We have UConn number one at the end of the year.
The-
So
this is a stores collective attack, just so you know. I'm
this
serious. I'm
is
serious. You got Doster being like, "Oh, this team could be 2024 UConn." Meanwhile, Hurley's over here saying this team is better than any of those teams that he's had. You do simple math there. Now the math podcast, put it in parentheses, carry the two. This this Purdue team won't be able to beat UConn this year. I see
Hurley's
what I see what the stores collective is doing.
Hurley's also saying that he almost retired. He almost stepped down. He's burned out. Mr. Hotballs is hosting Twitter Spaces. Add it all up, and yeah, it seems to point to this is all a tactical Husky play. Honestly, dare I say, Cart, Rob Doster masterpiece.
Yeah,
This is a
no,
Rob Doster masterpiece.
100% a Rob Doster masterpiece, easily. Also, I mean, this has layers. Back to the bloomin' onion take here. This has layers. Um, the All-American candidate on this year's Purdue team, one of them, that is, scored like zero in that 2024 national championship game. I forgot he was there. I see what you're doing, Rob. Well done. But I see what you're doing.
Yeah, very smooth. Okay, I would like to single out one thing on a more serious note that he singled out here. He went down the Oscar Clough trail and seemed to kind of point to that as the premier reason to make this comp, right? It was look at what was wrong with Purdue last year. They went out and got Oscar Clough, an Australian outback man, I think was his words. We know Oscar Clough is an incredible rebounder. He was the number one rated rebounder in the country last season. He averaged 13 rebounds a game in the Summit League. He is undeniably proven in terms of his rebounding ability. I've made note elsewhere that it wasn't just rebounding that was Purdue's issue last year. That was huge, but they were even worse at rim protection, and that's not exactly a strength of Oscar Clough's. If you go down the UConn Purdue comparison here again, Donovan Clingan was a monster. Donovan Clingan was a monster rebounder. Donovan Clingan was the best rim protector in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Purdue doesn't have that. Even if Clough is great, they're still going to have rim protection issues. And even if Daniel Jacobson is great, they're still going to have rebounding issues. So you can't really combine those two players. If you could, you'd probably get what Donovan Clingan was, and that would make the UConn comp a little more real for me. But I also just want to ask you, because I don't think we've really discussed it on the pod, and I was discording on this a little bit with Purdue fans. How positive are you that Oscar Clough's rebounding is going to translate?
I mean, I'll say this. I think it'll translate. I don't think it's as for sure of a translation as people are making it seem. Like it's just like we got Clough, bam, that's it. There we go. Rebound. He's gonna rebound fixed. Like I do think that there is a small sample size of his rebounding percentage at the major level, at the high major level. Very small, but like that is out there.
Well, the reason that I bring it up with the high major level concerns is that we have an entire season's worth of data on this. People forget Oscar Clough started 23 games and played 35 games just 2 years ago at Washington State in the Pac-12, the final year of that conference, a conference which, to be clear, it's high major. It's not the Big Ten, right? But the Pac-12 still is not the Big Ten in terms of size and physicality. And Oscar Clough played 20 minutes a game, had a serious role, played in every single game that season, and averaged 4.4 rebounds a game. I mean, you can go by rates if you'd rather. Like, in fact, I pulled the numbers on this. And again, I think it's reasonable that Clough just got better and got bigger and played more basketball. Remember, he was slow to play basketball. So he's probably figured out the game more. But also, this should scare Purdue fans because I'm about to hit you with numbers, Cart. I have 3 players that I'm going to read you numbers for. Player A, 11% offensive rebounding rate, 13% defensive rebounding rate. Player B, 11% offensive rebounding rate, 12% defensive rebounding rate. Player C, 12% offensive rebounding rate, 17% defensive rebounding rate. All in the same stratosphere. Player C is the best rebounder by a slight margin. Player A and player B are essentially identical rebounding rates. Do you accept that premise before I reveal who the players are?
I accept the premise, please.
Caleb First's sophomore and senior year are 2 of those years, and Oscar Clough at Washington State is the 3rd. And by the way, the one that's better out in front was Caleb First's sophomore season. So the 1 year of high major basketball that we have data on from Oscar Clough, just 2 seasons ago, he was a worse rebounder than sophomore Caleb First was. It's not exactly like some people have said he's basically Zach Edey as a rebounder. I don't think that's true. I think if Zach Edey was in the Summit League, he would have averaged 27 rebounds a game.
That's low.
So I guess that's kind of like it's all fair to say they got the number 1 rebound in the portal. They did. That's what Clough was last season. But I think kind of, I don't know, comparing him in this realm of like, well, it's a lot like UConn because Klingon was great and now they got Clough. He's not Klingon. He's not a lottery pick. He's not a rim protector, and he might not be that rebounder at the high major level. We don't know yet.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was so like to Dowser's point, it was so bad last year that like just even the marginal improvement will help this team. Like Clough's body being there will help this team because that body is not that like Dowser stated, that's an outback 6'11" massive human being, not a doctor. Also Daniel Jacobson will be back as well. So like it'll get better, but the level that it's going to get better, I think can sometimes be over exaggerated a little, not over exaggerated, but I don't think it's as much of a foregone conclusion that people think it is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. But again, if you're a Purdue fan, you should love this, unless
Oh,
you realize it's tactical warfare.
you should definitely love it. Even though it is tactical warfare, but just be prepared for that all year. And also way too much Oscar Clough talk without this. Can I get a oi 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 oi?
Love you, Doster.